All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Business Entrepreneurs and Private Practice Student Special Interest Group. Dr. F Scott Feil here. I am absolutely honored to be here to talk to you guys tonight about juggling several different projects in life, in work, and in business. I do a lot of things. I like to think I do them fairly well. People always ask how I'm able to do all these things. And I think the answer really becomes systematizing, one of those words, right? And it's all about coming up with your own way and method of doing things, right? And your own standard operating procedure to kind of figure out what you can and can't handle, and then prioritizing those systems. Because you can jot it down and systematize it all you want, but if you're not going to then take it and put it into action, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. There we go. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. I've got a couple of core pillars here that we're going to kind of talk about tonight, and I'll kind of show you how I use these to really organize my life. And again, you'll notice like the way that I've got it here is it's written as projects in life, work, and business, right? And the reason for that is the order in which I prioritize things. It wasn't always the case. I think I did a fairly poor job of prioritizing early in my life and career. And I'm paying for that now. I'm having to kind of play catch up. So it took me a while to realize that I had to prioritize in this order: life, then work, then business. And I think, putting life forward or life first kind of helps with prioritizing your health, right? Your relationships, your mental health, all of that stuff. So we'll kind of talk about tonight how to manage those things and how to kind of give yourself a system and structure in order to get the most out of your life and your day, if you will. So really the first pillar, if you will, is influence, right? And if we want to have influence, and I don't really like the term influencer for those that are big into social media. I'm not a huge fan of the word influencer. I really like thought leader a little bit better because, especially in the world of academia, I think it's just important that, we're coming up with these thoughts and ideas, and then we're putting them forward for other people to consider. That to me is more important than being an influencer. Influencer sounds like I'm an Instagram model, and that I am certainly not, right? However, if I can be a thought leader, if I can really, share my thoughts with those that I feel, could benefit from it, I'm going to go a lot further, I think, than if I were to just stay silent and keep myself, quiet and muted. And, really, you're not going to have much influence that way, right? Which is why that's one of the reasons that I tell everybody, especially my students, you're going to have to promote yourself unapologetically, right? If you have a message that you think is so powerful and can help so many people, whether it be your physical therapy knowledge, whether it be a technique or a treatment that you like to use or some sort of system that you follow, if you're going to follow that, and if you know that it's going to help a lot of people, you've got to get it out there, right? You have to promote yourself unapologetically and realize that, most of this is mental stuff. It's mindset barriers you've got to get over, right? You could be the best physical therapist in the world, and if nobody knows where you are or how to find you, it doesn't matter. Nobody's coming to see you, right? So step one, like I said, in order to have influence, in order to make an impact on the world, right, we've got to figure out a way to put our best foot forward, to promote ourselves. And for me, I think the best way to do that is PMA, positive mental attitude, right? If you have a positive attitude, that's something that radiates. Like people can feel that, they can sense that. If you're always kind of happy and upbeat and positive, even in some of the toughest of situations, it's a lot easier to get by day. It's a lot easier to get fired up and really want to do things, to get out of bed every morning and just take on the day full force, right? So again, having a positive mental attitude will help us with the influence area of things, right? So the next one I want to talk about is clarity. This is huge, all right? And this kind of goes, I would say it's probably the most important thing that you're going to need, no matter what it is, whether it's work, whether it's life, whether it's business. You're going to have some clarity, right? And when I talk about clarity, I like to put it in the frame of a North Star, right? You've got to know what your North Star is. And it's okay for that North Star to change a little as you age, as your career changes, as your, ideas and experiences, your life experiences change, right? But you've got to know what your North Star is. What are you shooting for, right? What are you aiming for? And again, those goals and that North Star may change, but it's got to be the one driving force. It's got to be the one pulling force that's getting you through day by day. And as a student, that may be something like, I just want to pass my NPTE. I want to pass all of my classes. I want to pass the NPTE, and then I'll worry about what's next. Great. Good North Star to have. But now you're going to have to start thinking about what affects that North Star, what affects that path, what are the barriers that are going to come, right? And how can I navigate those? And I feel like physical therapists do a really good job of being able to navigate those things and being able to kind of, move with the, punches and kind of roll with it. We're very good at adapting, right? We work with adapting exercises. We work with adaptive equipment. We have that natural tact and that talent for adapting. And so it's super important to know your North Star, but realize, the path to get there may be a little winding, right? I was an English major before I became a physical therapist, right? That's not normal, right? That's not a straight and narrow, but it worked. I rolled with it and it worked out, right? So once you've got clarity, once you've honed in and gotten your North Star and you figured out where you want to go, now you have a target to shoot for, right? Now you've got something that you can aim for. You've got the clear vision. How you get there, again, may wind, it may change. That's okay. But now we've got clarity, right? The next one is necessity. And this goes in line with managing up effectively and delegating. And that is a necessity because you will not be able to do all the things you want to do in a day and all the tasks you want to complete. I can't juggle 8 to 10 different projects by myself. I need help, right? I need people that I can trust. I need people that I know and that I like working with, right? And I need people that are talented and skilled in maybe things that I'm not, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There may be things that I hate doing that they love doing. And so it's that necessity that allows me to then manage them up, talk them up, tell them how good of a job they do at what they do, what their specialty is, right? What their zone of genius is, right? Hey, man, you helped me with that thing I needed for that project. I really appreciate that. You do so well at that. I love your passion for it, your enthusiasm. I love having you on the team. You make this so much easier for me. Thank you for that. Right? Let people know, right? Manage them up appropriately. If you do that, delegation will become a lot easier because people will seek you out to do the things that they like to do, even if you don't like them, right? Maybe I need data entry for a research study, right? And I hate data entry. I hate numbers. I don't like Excel spreadsheets. But if somebody that I know is really good at that, why should I take that on and try to juggle it with my 8 other things going on when I can delegate it to somebody on the team who I know is going to get it done way quicker than me, way better than me, way more efficiently? Now, that does take trust, right? You have to trust people Just because you have a need and a necessity to fill that void, you still got to trust the people that you're delegating to. And that's where relationships come in, right? Relationships beat algorithms 100% of the time. You can work on all of the copywriting and the pictures and the social media posts. None of that really matters, to some extent. It's all just, social media world, which is a lot of, you're not seeing the whole picture, right? You're just seeing the best of the best, the greatest hits sometimes, which is great. But if you get to know somebody and you really work through that relationship and you talk with them on, what their dreams and aspirations are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, that helps you kind of figure out, okay, I can definitely see this person being an asset for this thing. Let me talk to them about it and see what their feelings are, right? So reach out if you have that necessity, talk people up, right? Manage them up effectively, and it will pay off for you tenfold when trying to do multiple things at once. All right. The next one is energy. This is a big one. Energy, it's what we live off. It's what we thrive off. Again, it's what gets us excited, gets us out of bed in the morning, lets us put our feet on the ground and get fired up right away, right? But in order to have that energy, there's a couple things we need to do, right? One, we need to get sleep, right? And we'll talk about that in a little while. Your body needs rest. It needs to recuperate. You can't be burning the candle at both ends and working the midnight oil when, you're running on empty and on fumes. That's not going to get it done, right? So you've got to be able to conserve your energy to some extent and regroup each night and get those 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I know as a student that becomes super tough, but guess what? As a business owner, as a professor, as a father and a husband, comes pretty hard to do in that situation too, right? It's not that much different. If in fact, it may be harder, right? So I know it's tough when you're juggling a lot of these things, but it's finding that balance and knowing when to put the throttle in and give that energy and when to conserve it and chill out and relax and recoup, right? So with energy, you have to learn to say no. The magic word is no. And it took me a long time to figure this out. I was a yes person from day one. I will do it. Yes, that sounds good. Yes, that sounds good. Oh, cool opportunity. Sign me up. I want to do that, right? The problem with that is when you're saying yes to something, you're also saying no to something else, right? So you're giving up your time, your attention, your efforts, your energy to that thing that you said yes to, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. If you're going to try to do 8, 10 different things at once and you need to put a little bit of energy into each one, totally fine. But when a new thing comes along, you've got to think long and hard about, is this thing, this opportunity going to drive me towards my North Star and my goal? Or is it going to pull me away and deviate me from the plan? Right? So that's where energy is super important. That's why no is going to be your best friend. Don't be afraid to say no, especially if it doesn't serve you and your goal and what you're trying to accomplish. If you have an opportunity come your way and it's in line with your North Star and going to help you get to where you want to be, by all means, say yes, take it on, right? Challenge it, go for it. But you have to make sure that it's in line with your North Star. Next one is courage, right? You've got to have courage. If you're going to take on, several different things at once, you got to be bold. You got to be brave, right? You got to realize you're going to fail a bunch, and that's okay, right? You got to be courageous enough to put yourself out there. All right. And with courage, you have to know yourself, right? A lot of people are introverts. They don't like talking, communicating, doing a lot of those things. They want to just stay to themselves, right? Totally fine. Some people are extroverts, exact opposite, people person, right? Like I'm from New York originally, right? I feel like I've never met a stranger. My dad was the same way. He was like the mayor of our little town, hey, how are you? Hey, shaking hands, kissing babies, that kind of thing, right? Totally extroverted. I'm the same way. I get a lot of that from him. I was in, I was on the football team, the golf team, the lacrosse team, student union president, all the musicals, theater, choir. I did it all. I didn't have one group of friends. I had 8 to 10, right? That's who I was. My parents, the same way. They were, the president of the booster club, friends of the arts, Little League, and you name it. They did it all. Somehow they managed to cart me and my brother around, like glorified cab drivers for years. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And that kind of instilled in me a good work ethic, right? But you also have to have that self-awareness to look in yourself and say, hey, I know my limit. I'm reaching it. I can feel it. I know my energy is being drained. I know I'm on empty. I cannot take on anything else more than what I've already got on my plate. You've got to know when to say when. And you're the only one who can answer that. I could probably take on 10, 12 projects at once and be cool with it. And like, life will be hectic. Things will be crazy. I'll drop the ball a couple times. I'm all right with that because I know that my 80% is better than most people's 100%. So if I have to split myself up, 10% across 8 projects to get that 80%, somebody else working on one project at 100%, I'm probably going to do pretty well, going up head to head with them. But that's just me. I know my work ethic, right? I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm probably the dumbest smart guy you'll ever meet. I tell people this time and time again. But I have a pretty high grit score and I'm pretty damn persistent. That's the only way that I got through grad school. It's the only way I got through my dissertation. They had to drag me across the finish line, kicking and screaming. It was not an easy journey, and I'm okay with that. I got knocked down a ton of times, but I kept getting back up, right? Persistency. Again, I just know that I'm going to put in the work to get the job done. Not everybody has that, right? And it's okay if you don't. You can get better at it. You can work at it, but it's going to take some training, right? It's going to take some practice. So you got to know yourself. You got to know how much you can take on and how much you can't. And you've got to be able to, say when it's time. Right. The next one is focus. You may or may not have seen this before. If anybody listens to John Lee Dumas, the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast, he loves this term, focus, Focus, follow one course until success, right? Focus on the task at hand, then move on to the next one, right? This is where I kind of sort of disagree and get away from his theory a little. I think it takes focus to do the thing you're working on in that little time block. But I have ADD, and I didn't even know it until last year. I was just recently diagnosed, right? It explains a lot, though. It took me a handful of times to pass my board exam, right? It took me a handful of times to get through my dissertation. My first IRB was completely rejected. I had to start all over again, So I'm learning more now about myself as I go, further and further down the rabbit hole of academia and teaching and learning, right? But at the same time, I'm able to drop everything and focus in and get, 15 to 20 minutes of hardcore work done, and then take a 5 to 10 minute pause, regroup, and then get back at it again, right? So focusing is super important. And then last but not least, productivity, right? You have to come up with something tangible at the end of the day, right? You need some form of output, right? So every day you've got to complete something, right? Business especially is based around forward momentum, right? You may do 8 to 10 things in one day and knock out all these checklists and get a course created and filmed and edited and then put up into the paywall, and boom, you just created a whole course in 8 hours. That's awesome, right? That's great. But then the next day, you may not get hardly anything done, but you craft an email that's going to go out and let people know, hey, I've got a new course out. It's one little thing, but it's a positive thing. It's a positive momentum, right? You're not going backwards and you're not stagnant. You're not at a standstill, right? So what I tend to do each day is I try to get at least one thing done, but usually it's 3. I usually jot down the 3 most important things that have to get done that day, knock those out as soon as I can. Then whatever's left, I go to my lists, right? I'm a big fan of lists. I'm old school. This is a yellow legal pad. I just write down my list. I switch things around a little. I prioritize, right? And that's what I was doing today on a note card. I was reprioritizing, reorganizing the list of things I have to do and get done. And then I just start attacking them. And if I get those 3 things done for the day, it's a win. It's positive momentum, right? Then I go, yellow legal pad is the ultimate organization tool. I will agree with you, Jose. So again, it's one of those things where everybody's going to have their own systems, their own methods, their own, organizational skill. I actually have this still. This right here is a moleskin notebook, right? This thing has been with me for years, since late 90s, actually. It's just about filled up at this point. I've only got a couple blank pages left, but I keep it in my top pocket, right? When I worked at the hospitals and stuff, I would keep it in my top pocket of my scrubs with a pen. And anytime I get an idea or have to write a little note or something, I'd take it out and jot it down, right? I'd write some goals, some ideas I had, oh, this would be good for a book. Oh, this would be good for a course. Hey, I wonder how you get certified in Titleist Performance Institute. Just little notes and ideas and things I had in my mind that I wanted to do or accomplish, right? Once we got to that point, nowadays technology is a lot better, right? So I can just write a little note in my iPhone. I've got 178 some odd notes at this point. Probably need some organization there. If I had to guess, I'd say I could probably use that, but I'll get to it. I need some free time, but I'll get there. So come up with some system where you can jot down ideas that come to your mind at any given time, whether it's in your iPhone or smartphone, or you've got a little notebook or notepad or something. But ideas are kind of free flowing, and you want to make sure that you have the opportunity to be creative and just verbal diarrhea onto the page, right? Just whatever you're thinking, just blah 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 blah. This would be cool. This would be cool. I want to do this. Oh, this would be cool. Right? Get that out there. Get that on the page. Clear your mind a little bit, and then start from scratch. Right? You have a blank slate then at that point. But get those ideas down, because I was going through this pad the other day, and there's some really cool things in here that I have not really revisited. And now I'm pumped that I am, because I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great idea. And then I'm looking at some of them. I'm like, I must have been drunk when I wrote that one, because I don't know what that is. That doesn't make any sense. Right? But that's okay. That's what it is, right? That you have to give yourself the permission to be bold and to be creative, because that's the only way you're going to get the maximum potential out of yourself. Right? If we're too rigid and we're too stuck in our ways and our systematizing and all of that, it's going to block the creativity, and that's, again, another, I think, aspect of physical therapy that we're really good at, is being creative, right? Coming up with those adaptive ideas, coming up with alternative ways to do things, right? And it's more than just physical therapy. It's how can I get creative in life? How can I get creative in business, right? And take things to the next step. So creativity is something that I think most entrepreneurs have, for sure. But it's one of those things that we can kind of utilize to our advantage to really get the most out of ourselves, right? The most out of our potential. So let me pull this up real quick. I want to show you my system, my method to my madness. Get rid of this document here. Let's just minimize that. I don't want to.
Hey, Dr. Phil.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. So I have a quick question before it kind of leaves my train of thought.
Yes.
But you mentioned like promoting yourself unapologetically. So my question is kind of like, how do you deal with when you do that and you don't kind of get the response you expected, or like the engagement is low? How do you kind of just deal with that and try to look at the positives or something?
Sure. Well, first off, why are you doing it? Right? You shouldn't be posting for likes and for feedback all the time. You should be posting for yourself, right? You should be posting to help others. There's going to be times where you get zero. There's going to be a lot of time where you get zero engagement, and that's okay. Post it because you need to post it to get it out there. Post it because you have an idea that you just want to share to the world, because it'll help people. That this is a cool idea. I need to get this out there. Somebody will benefit from it somewhere down the line. It may be a year from now, right? But it also kind of leads to nurturing, right? If you, again, most of my message is kind of beating the same drum over a long period of time. I feel like as therapists, we need to have one zone of genius, one specialty area, right? Where we can kind of be the best version of ourselves and give the most and be the most passionate about. Then we need to have several different revenue streams based around that zone of genius, right? Some one-on-one active having to be there, and some relatively passive, like a book or a course or something that we can, kind of sell while we sleep and not have to trade time for money. Then once we get some more money and we're like, oh, cool, we got all this money, what do we do with it? Well, let's start figuring out a way to pay down those student loans and get them off our backs as quick as possible, or stretch them out over a long period of time and then take the difference and invest it. Whatever's makes the most sense for you. It's going to be different for everybody, right? But realize that you're going to have posts that just fall flat. That's okay. You're going to have haters. You're going to have, especially once you start getting on the right track and growing and really getting a following, there's going to be people that are jealous. There's going to be people that are haters. I just don't have time for that, right? Go back to the positive mental attitude, PMA, right? I don't have time for negativity. If you have something going on within yourself that you had to take the time to post negatively on something I posted, I just don't have time for that, man. So I post it, I put it out there, and I'm done. I'm gone. I'm on to the next thing. I hope that what I had to say helped somebody somewhere along the way. And if they have more questions or they want to chat more about it, shoot me a message, shoot me a DM. I'm pretty readily available, But at the end of the day, I'm not posting for likes and engagement and all that stuff. I'm posting to get a message out there because I truly believe my message will help people, whether it's today or whether it's a year from now. Right. And that's the cool thing about social media. A lot of that stuff lives in perpetuity. Right. So YouTube, Pinterest, a lot of those things just live on forever. So people can look them up and just find them. Right. They don't even know you or what you're about. And then all of a sudden they look up a topic you covered and they're like, oh, this guy has a YouTube channel. Oh, cool. This post is all about what I was looking for. Oh, and he has a blog about it too. Let me go read that next. Right. And again, they stumble down your rabbit hole. They're in your funnel. Now you can nurture them and have that, build that relationship over time, So don't ever, ever, ever worry about any sort of negative posts or engagement or, likes and follows. It just doesn't matter. If you're doing it for the right reason and you're doing it to help people, right? You come at it with a servant's heart. You're doing the right thing. You're fighting the good fight, man. Just keep it up. The key becomes being consistent long enough for it to help people, right? All of these things that we talk about, especially in business, those are long plays, right? A podcast, that's a long play. YouTube channel, that's a long play, right? Social media, that's kind of a long play, right? I mean, you may get some short-term stuff, but these are all just slow and steady nurture systems to your funnel. So it's you have to kind of go back to your North Star and your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you posting this content? What are you trying to get out of it? Who are you trying to serve? Who are you trying to help? Does that make sense? All right. Can you guys see my screen here? My calendar, my Monday. This is a typical Monday. Okay. So I generally, this is just my system. This is what I use. I try to do this every Friday, like in the afternoon / evening. Because I teach for the Flex program, a lot of my weekends, alternating weekends for the most part, I'm on campus. So I work during the weekends. So I don't really have time all the time on weekends to like plan my week out. I generally take off every Friday for the most part. I try to stay as off the grid as I can on Friday and have that be like my weekend or off day. So on Friday, I take like an hour or so or, 2, whatever it takes. And I go through my week and I plan it out just like this. Right. And again, we're looking at 3 different topics here, right? 3.5. Green is my life stuff. Blue is my business stuff. Red is my school or work stuff. Right. And my work situation is a little bit different in that even though I'm an entrepreneur and I have businesses, I'm always going to need a 9 to 5, right? Because my wife's a type 1 diabetic. So we need medical benefits, and not just any medical benefits. We need good medical benefits, right? So if I have 8 to 10 different projects that I'm working on at once, I've got to keep them organized. I have to keep them on. It's like herding cattle. Like I have to keep them going in the forward direction or nothing's ever going to get done. So again, if I can just get a little forward momentum on all my projects, sometimes one will get more and one will get less based on deadlines and time that we have to allot to things. But for the most part, forward momentum on everything. Focus and forward momentum will get these projects done in a timely fashion and to your liking. Again, deadlines come in every once in a while. You got to push, priority here or there. But for the most part, if you can just keep everything moving forward, like I said, like a herd of cattle, just keep them moving forward. And eventually good things happen. If you keep things moving forward and get that forward momentum going long enough, eventually good things just start to happen, right? People like to say, oh, he's so lucky, right? That overnight success. No, that's 10 years of hard work and putting in the time and the systems. And then an opportunity comes along and they're able and ready to pounce on it because they did the work for the 10 years. It's not an overnight success, right? It's like that iceberg picture where you only see the top and its success. You don't see all the things underneath the water. That's like the hard work, the dedication, the sacrifice, all that stuff that goes into it, right? But if you do these things long enough, consistently enough, you get results. So weird, right? It's like working out, right? Something that I neglected for many years because I was putting too much time and emphasis on the wrong things, right? I didn't have a good, it's called work-life balance, but I look at it now as life-work balance because, again, that priority. It's a little switch, but it's a mental thing that I do so that I'm always now prioritizing my health and my family. And that was not the case for many years. And like I said, I suffered for it. It's a very typical story you hear in entrepreneurs, like, oh, I put my business first. I didn't pay attention to my wife and kids. And then I got divorced and it was all my fault and blah, blah, blah. Right. My kids don't like hanging out with me because I wasn't there. I wasn't present. I was always on the phone or on the computer. Like every entrepreneur, not every, but a lot of entrepreneurs have that same story. So you've got to be able to prioritize the right things, right? And again, it goes back to that North Star and having clarity about what's important to you and how to get things done, right? So here's my schedule, right? Here is a typical Monday for me. This is just kind of average. I wake up around 5 a.m. I do an hour's worth of Miracle Morning. For those of you who haven't heard of the Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod wrote a book on it. He took a bunch of high performers and interviewed them about their morning routine. 1,000 different high performers, athletes, CEOs, C-suite level execs, busy businessmen and businesswomen making tons of money, very successful. They all had some sort of morning routine, and he took the top 6 routines and put them all together into one. And I'll put this in the chat here, but he calls them lifesavers, right? SAVERS, right? And so S is scribe or write. A is affirmations, right? Positive mental attitude, positive affirmations, right? V is visualization. I'm not a huge hippy dippy fan, but there's a lot of studies that show golfers who visualize the shot before they hit it actually hit a better shot that's closer to what the outcome is they were looking for, right? So if you close your eyes and imagine the process of what you need to get done, that shows that, hey, I can do this. This is what it looks like. Then your subconscious starts getting involved, right? E is exercise. R is read. And the final S is silence or meditation. So those are the lifesavers there that Hal Elrod's book is based on. I get up in the morning at 5. I do these 6 things, I guess 7 things. Generally, affirmations and visualization, I only use a minute or 2 each. And then silence or meditation, I usually just use a Calm or Headsaver or a Headspace app. For meditation, I usually do about 5 minutes. So that's 5, 6, 7, about 9 minutes there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 minutes each on the last 4 gets me pretty close to an hour. And I've been doing this now for about 2 years, 3 years. And it has started my days off for success and allowed me to think through and write through the things I have to get done, what's a priority, which projects need the most of my time and effort and energy, which I can kind of let slide, right? So yeah, I recommend getting into some sort of morning routine, whatever it is for you that works. So that's my first hour of the morning. Then from 6 to 7:30, I get the kids up, get them fed, get them dressed, ready for school. I'm back home from dropping them off by 8 o'clock. Right. And again, this green is life stuff, right? Then around 8 o'clock to 8:30, I go through my school emails first for work, right? So that's red, there's work. Then 8:30 to 9, I usually go through my business emails, make sure there's no fires I have to put out or anything like that, right? And then like from 9 to 10 or so, I'll go through any grades that need to be done, any assignments I have to grade or anything like that. Usually we have some meetings throughout the day, faculty meetings. So, 10 to 11, I'll have the first meeting, 11 to 12, I'll have the second meeting. 12 o'clock, I throw in a lunch, right? You've got to give all of these things throughout your day a specific time. You have to give them a time slot. If it's not on my schedule, if it's not in here like this, it doesn't get done. And I try to keep this pretty much accurate with my Gmail calendar, my Google calendar. One little hiccup I've gone through is that we use Microsoft Office for school. And so that calendar doesn't talk very well with my Google calendar, but I have them side by side so I can see any overlap. If somebody could just come up with an app, hint, business people, tech people, that makes all the calendars talk into one, that would be awesome. Or if you guys know one, hit me up. I would love to start using it because I hate that everybody's proprietary stuff is selfish. So with lunch here, 12 to 12:30, if I'm super busy, if something's not going right, I have a box of protein bars in my desk and I'll just eat that while I'm going through and fixing something or trying to, sit through a meeting or something comes up and a student needs help or something like that, right? After lunch, I'll hit up one of the projects I need to knock off for school, whether it's read some research articles or, organize some sort of, project or writing. If I have to do some writing for a dissertation, not dissertation, but like a research study or methods section or something like that, I'll do that here, right? Then maybe I've scheduled a podcast for one of my business, right? I have an interview from 1 to like 1:30, 1:45, and then from 1:45 to like 2:30 or so. Maybe I've got 2 podcasts scheduled. I do those interviews, boom, those are done. And now I'm right back into, hey, I got to pick the kids up from school, right? So 2:30 to 3, I pick the 2 kids up and I'm back here at home. Now that I'm back at home, this is key with time blocking. As important as it is to give everything you need to get done a specific time, you've got to give yourself a bubble, a breathing room, some sort of recoup time at the end to either fix stuff you screwed up, or if something took longer than expected and you didn't have that time to get it done, this here from 3 to 4:30 or so is where I do that. I put that in every day. It's fixing time or catch up time. Now, if I did everything and nothing needs to be fixed or get caught up, I've completed everything, then I take this time and I go back into some of the projects that I need to work on. Maybe I'm getting ahead for the next day, right? Then again, at the end of the day, I'll hit up school emails from about 4:30 to 5, make sure, again, there's no fires I need to put out, make sure everything's good to go. And this took me a while to get used to, right? I'm from the clinical world for 16 years. So, I mean, I checked my email once a week in the clinic. That was plenty. In academia, you get swamped with emails. It's emails every few minutes. It's a completely different beast. So I have to get into the habit of checking them more frequently and addressing things. And I'm guilty of it now too. I send out probably too many emails, right? But that's the world I live in now, right? So around 5 o'clock, I'll probably start helping with dinner. I generally like to cook. I do a lot of the cooking. So, my wife and I kind of split it, but for the most part, I would say it's probably a 60-40 split where I take a little bit more of the cooking. So 5 to 6, we'll do dinner. Family time from 6 to 7, whether that's reading books with the kids or playing on the Switch or watching a movie or something or a board game, whatever. I try to put the phone away and the computer away and just be present now. Again, it wasn't like that. I was constantly on my phone. I was constantly trying to do too much and squeeze too much in. But now family time is family time. I've allotted that time for it. I put it in there. It's dedicated to family time. Nothing's going to get in the way of that. Again, unless there's a fire or something that comes up, and then I got to try to put that out. But I try to stay as tightly to this schedule as I can. Then sometimes I'll either have like a presentation like this, right? Something to do on a Monday or a Tuesday night, because that's kind of how the Flex program works, where a lot of our students are working during the day and then they come on at night for their tests. So here I have a 2-hour exam scheduled, right, from 7 to 9, right? Around 9 o'clock, 9 to 9:30, I may start to do a couple posts, right, a couple social media posts. Maybe I do a quick YouTube video or something. Send that out, do what I got to do there. And then I usually start winding down, and I'll start reading a book or some research articles or something that I've got going on, or watch, a little bit of Netflix with the wife. I can probably tell you most of the cities that the Real Housewives are located in. I don't know that I could tell you their names or anything, but that's again back to family time, and you can again see that it's kind of green there, right? So it matches up. Last but not least, boom, in bed and asleep by about 10 o'clock. That's the goal. This way, when I wake up at 5 to do it all over again on Tuesday, I've got my 7 or 8 hours of sleep. So there's the breakdown, right? There's 24 hours or so right there, right? I've color coded it. I've given every half hour or hour a name, a meaning. This is what has to get done during this time, right? I've used time blocking to the best of my ability. I've left in some cushion time to fix things when they go awry, right? And I've made my priority family, right? I put life first. So again, these green ones are ones that I try not to mess with too much, right? Because that's my priority. If you look here, right, I'd probably put green first. I'd probably put red second because that kind of pays the bills. But blue, my business, that's really my passion projects. That's what I love working on. That's what I love talking about, right? I would do that all day, every day if I could, but it's not quite in the cards for me that way. So it fulfills my need and my desire to work on a passion project and help more people through my business coaching, through my books, through my content, et cetera, et cetera. And then still trying to get a solid 7 hours of sleep. So that is how I handle all of these ridiculous things that I do in a weekly basis. And the best part of all this is because I'm fairly decent at it, because it is my zone of genius, my passion, I love doing this stuff. I love getting up every morning and going to work. If you don't love what you're doing for work or for business, you're just going to quit when it gets tough, right? When the going gets tough, you're just going to bail and be like, all right, I'm out. This sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. And then we have that, what, quiet quitting now they call it, right? Where people are just doing the bare minimum until they can find another job or leave or get fired, right? So, I mean, if you're not passionate about it, if you're not loving what you're doing, it's going to make all this a whole lot harder. So make sure, again, even if you have to take the 9 to 5 and maybe take a pay cut, if you love that 9 to 5, supplement it with something else you love to do. If, let's say, you love working with athletes and you found an outpatient clinic that sees 10 to 12 patients a day, they're all athletes, high school and college. You're like, this is great. I love it. But I'm only making about, 75,000 a year. I'd like to make 100. Okay, well, let's come up with something you can do to make up that 25. Maybe you put on athletic camps, training camps, injury prevention. I don't like prevention, but mitigation camps, whatever, right? Something you can do to supplement that income to get you to where you need, especially when it comes down to student loans and, car payments and house payments and stuff like that, and taking care of the family, right? I would much rather you be happy and enjoy what you're doing and find other ways to make the money than sitting in a 9 to 5 that you hate, going into burnout just because you need the money. I did that for many years. I chased the dollar, and every job I took got me higher and higher on the pay scale, but it wasn't happy. It wasn't joy. It was pretty miserable. And so I do not recommend that. If anything, learn from me, do what you're passionate about, do what you love. And then we can find other ways to supplement the income. Trust me, there's plenty of opportunities out there for PTs. So, all right. So questions, please, let me hear them. What do you guys got?
Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks a lot for making this happen. It was incredible hearing you talk. Just a quick introduction. My name is Quentin Valente. I am the president of the BEPP SIG in the Miami campus.
Awesome. Love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. And Gabriela Rodriguez right there is our vice president as well. So we definitely wanted to introduce ourselves, and just kind of let you know who we are. But
awesome.
So yeah, thanks a lot. Hopefully we could go ahead and also get this out to the students at Miami campus and maybe have you in for a second one.
Absolutely.
But in regards to this meeting, hey, I love everything that you were talking about, and especially for the PMA, and especially when I was working in business, one of the things that was always sticking out to me, or the thing that I was trying to figure out is how do you maintain a PMA all the time when, let's say, for example, 7 days out of the week, six, you're in a negative state, and then you're in the seventh day, you're in a positive state. Especially when you're starting your own business, you get that imposter syndrome. It's hard to get into that positive mindset. I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah. So a lot to unpack there, right? But the first step is, one, there's no reason for imposter syndrome. It's complete BS. It's a mindset thing. You guys are going to come out with a doctorate in physical therapy. That's more than 96 or 94% of the population. Literally, a doctoral degree puts you in the top 4 to 6% in the nation as far as education goes. So that's the first thing. You know more about the musculoskeletal system than 94% of the population. So there's not that many people that know more than you, and your audience, no matter what your niche is, no matter what your business is probably not going to be that 6%. I mean, it could be. You could be teaching a CEU course or something to other clinicians, which is cool. But again, if they're going to bitch and moan and complain about, your stuff and what you're teaching, just don't have time for that. So sorry for you, good luck. You're not my audience, right? So the hard part is, okay, this is hard. Business is hard. It's not easy to start a business. It's even harder to maintain it and to keep it going for a prolonged period of time. I don't need there's stupid stats out there about, 98% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. In the next 5, the 10 years, it's like 99%. So like 1 or 2% succeed. Like, I don't know if I believe a lot of that. The moral of the story is there is no failure except stopping. That's the only failure. Every mistake that I've made has been a learning experience, right? So if I change my mindset and the way that I look at things, and I look at it as opportunities to learn and get better, even losses aren't that big of a deal, right? It's like, man, that sucked. That was a $10,000 hit. Like, well, I know not to do that again, right? We're going to fix that system. We're going to come up with a better way. We're going to make it right. And, so that we never have to take that $10,000 learning experience again. So if you frame it that way and you look at it like, hey, I love the process, I love the journey, because again, your business is not the destination, right? Your business is the journey. It's the car, it's the transportation method that gets you to the end game, right? Whatever that may be for you. It's going to be different for everybody. But let's say you want to retire at 55 and you want 10 rental properties. Well, then your business is the vehicle, the mode of transportation that gets you to that end game and that point. So you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy the jalopy and enjoy the wins and losses that go along with it that eventually turn into the race car. You have to look at it like, hey, I'm going to get better at this. I'm not great at it. You're not expected to be. But again, if you've got some sort of message that can help people, if you've got a service or something that solves a problem or is a solution for somebody, then all you have to do is connect point A, your passion, your zone of genius, what you're really good at, with that solution for that population, right? Point B, and you've got a viable business that's going to make you some money, right? And it's not all about profit. I wasn't profitable my first 2 years. Right. But years 3 through 5, we've slowly grown year over year. And now it's like it's starting to gain momentum. It's starting to pick up. And I don't know what the ceiling is. I know as a 1-man operation or 1.5, my wife's kind of helping out with some bookkeeping and social media stuff. But, I don't know where our ceiling is. I probably need to hire a VA at some point. But I don't want a huge team. I'm not a $7 million, 50-person operation. I just won't be. It's not what I want to do. It's not in my cards. But if I could get to, 3, 4, 500,000 a year on my side business, that's great. I've already hit the 6-figure mark, right? I'm making more doing that than I would maybe, in other instances as a clinician or professor, whatever it may be. But I love that so much that it's like, yeah, this is great. Let's grow it as big as I can, knowing my limitations, knowing my rules of engagement, knowing my playing field. right? And I only have 8 to 15 hours a week to work on the business, but I'm cool with that, right? Again, it's just a mindset shift. You have to be okay with being you and yourself and the journey along the way. So again, imposter syndrome, you've got to get rid of that right now because it shouldn't exist. You're in the top 6% of the population. So just realize if anybody's going to come and bitch and moan at you about anything that you're putting out or anything you're teaching, it's just not worth your time. Right. Unless it's like grossly misinformed and you're teaching people, NyQuil chicken and stuff like that. I can't help you on that one. Right. Tide Pods for snack, that's a whole nother brand. But, if you're trying to do the right thing, again, you're coming at it from a servant's heart, you're doing the right things, keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Just stay consistent. Keep up with that path until eventually you just look back and you're like, holy cow, I accomplished a lot. And I'm making a little money on the side. That's pretty nice. Now, how can we increase that a little bit, right? How can we add some layers to that? How can we scale this thing, Because the goal would be eventually to start a side business or a side hustle and then eventually scale it to a full-time gig or a full-time hustle, right? I hope that's the case for a lot of you. I hope people do that. Again, for me, it's a little bit different, but I'm totally okay with it. I love teaching. I love educating. So whether that be in my 9 to 5 or whether it be on my own stuff on the side, it's a win-win for me, So did that answer your question? I hope.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
What else can I answer? Now's the time. You got me here live. Ask away.
I have a question. So
Yes.
how do you deal with at the beginning of your, of you being an entrepreneur and starting your own business and leading your own path? How do you deal with people not taking you seriously? I'm guessing you were younger, or I feel like that's something that a lot of people face nowadays since we're younger, a younger generation, we're not taken seriously. So how do you deal with that?
You leverage expertise and authority, right? You have a doctoral degree, right? So when you introduce yourself, when you do things, you say, "Hey, I'm Dr. F Scott Feil. Pleasure to meet you. I'm a physical therapist. I've written a book, right? I've put out a bunch of courses. I've coached people. I've life experiences. I've put in the time. I put in the reps. I put in the hours. But it's building expertise and authority along the way that gets you to the point where now I'm getting invited to speak at conferences and at, guest lectures and things like that, because I am an expert and an authority. The thing that you guys have on your side, because you were young and because you're students, is time. You don't have to be an expert and authority right now, right? You're not even a licensed physical therapist yet, but what you can do is start documenting your journey and show people what you're learning now, why you're passionate about it, the niche that you love working with, the population you love working with, and document that journey along the way so people can see your comeuppance, right? They can see, man, she started as a wee little baby, 22 years old, didn't know anything, and now we saw her learn this, we saw her learn that, we saw her get much better at this, and oh my goodness, now she's graduated and she's working with patients. And this whole time she's been learning everything she can about her niche, right? And taking notes and jotting down her book and her story on why she loved that niche and, the top 5 things that are, diagnoses for that niche and the top 5 ways she treats that niche. And now that she's out in the public, some things she's learned along the way in that niche, right? Some expert secrets and tips, right? So again, just building expertise and authority along the way, that'll go a long way for people taking you seriously. And again, at the end of the day, you will have a doctoral degree. So use that, leverage it, right? It's all about leverage. Doesn't matter, the letters after your name, the alphabet soup. You can get all the CEUs in the world if you want, but the public doesn't know what that is, right? I don't even know what most of those are. I have to look some of those up half the time, right? But if you feel that you need those to get better at a skill and apply that to your business or your practice, by all means, do it. But there's other ways to build leverage and build authority and expertise right? And again, for me, I've leveraged the DPT. I've leveraged even my BA in English, right? I wrote a book, I write blogs, I do a lot of that stuff that takes my English background and the DPT, and I know a little bit about health and wellness and mobility and right what we do as PTs in the musculoskeletal system, right? Then I've taken my EDD and leveraged that into course creation, right? And curriculum development. So it's just taking my life experiences and putting them forward to help others with those. It's like, hey, I bet you don't know how to create an online course. I do. Let me show you real quick, right? Because at the end of the day, most of the things that you're going to be able to do and the skill sets you're going to have because of grad school are going to be there because you're a step or two ahead of people who either are still students or just have no idea, right? So it's not like you have to know that much. There's a scene in Catch Me If You Can, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's on the run. The FBI's chasing him for being a fraud. They say, hey, you were a professor of sociology at BYU. How did you do that? How did you know how to teach sociology? And he's like, I just read 2 chapters ahead of the class. And that's it. You just have to be 2 chapters ahead of the people that you're teaching, 2 steps ahead, right? If you know anything about Facebook ads or Google ads and somebody knows nothing about it, or even let's just take a business, a brick and mortar business, right? A PT clinic that has no digital footprint. They don't even have a Facebook page, right? Business page. And you know how to create a Facebook business page. Well, now you can take that skill set and say, hey, clinic, I notice you don't have a digital footprint, for $500, I'll set you up with a Facebook, business page, and you can run ads off of those. You can also do posts and stuff, and if you want, I noticed you didn't have Instagram or Twitter either. I'd be glad to run your social media for you. I charge $500 a month or whatever for 4 posts on each, 1 a week, something like that. Right. So again, you're just taking your skill sets and you're leveraging them. Right. I did not know how to do Facebook ads. When I had my mobile physical therapy business first starting out, I didn't know how to do Facebook ads. I ran some. I probably pissed away about $500. That was interesting. But then I was like, all right, well, clearly it's not me because they work, right? I just have to find the right ads. I have to find the right words and pictures to make these work. So I invested in myself, right? I took a $5,000 class on Facebook ads from a guy that, came very well, recommended. And sure enough, first week I ran ads based off of his class. I got 3 new patients. Each plan of care for a patient in cash pay physical therapy is about $1,800. Right. So again, that's $5,400 in the first week. So 5,000 goes to the class. I pay that off and boom, now I got $400 profit from week 1. I take those 400, I put it back into running ads. And then the next week, same thing, 4 or 5 new patients. Well, now that's all profit because I paid for the course. I'm paying for the ads and it paid for itself. But you got to be courageous, right? You have to be able to take that leap. You have to know yourself, what you do and don't know. You have to find the mentorship to speed up your timeline of what you're trying to accomplish. And like I said, you guys got time on your side. So use it. Use it. I wish this stuff was around when I was in school, back when the dinosaurs roamed. What else can I answer for you? What do you want to know about?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So as a 3rd-year DPT student, sometimes I get overwhelmed by just how many things I'm interested in throughout the program. And I guess like how many possibilities my North Star could be. So my question for you is, you're so well versed in a multitude of arenas. Did you ever struggle with the feeling of, I guess, that a lifetime wasn't enough to kind of do everything you wanted to do?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was an ortho bro for life, right? I was going to be the New York Mets physical therapist. That was it, man. That was my dream job. And started out an outpatient. Well, that's not true. My dad got sick, had some heart problems, passed away. So I traveled for a year. I did sniff in the middle of nowhere, Texas, as a favor to the recruiter. And then the next one, she got me in Hawaii. So I did home health in Honolulu, Hawaii for about six months. And then I finished up in home health in Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains. So that was just kind of like my, thorough, like find myself in the woods, Ralph Waldo Emerson type stuff. I just needed to get out and travel for a year and get over the passing of my dad, right? But as soon as that was done, I got into outpatient. And that's, like I said, I was going to be the ortho bro for life. Life threw me some curves, things, opportunities came my way that kind of moved me up the ladder. And I ended up in doing a little bit of home health, a little bit of sniff, and then a workman's comp company as well. And I just kind of got pretty good at home health and skilled nursing stuff, and kind of found that I loved the geriatric population. Like, they're just fun. They're funny. They have great stories. Like, you can learn a ton from them if you just sit back and listen. And so over the last 5-6 years, I've done, home health, skilled nursing, and then my own mobile business, my cash pay business. So it's a good variety, but now I'm, I teach geriatrics. I'm focusing on my GCS, and wasn't the path I thought it was going to be, right? I thought I was going to be doing something totally different, but again, I adapted, I learned to swerve. I kind of figured it out along the way and found what I loved en route. It just kind of fell into my lap, so to speak. I mean, did I love, workman's comp? Hell no. It was like FedEx guy hurts his low back, improper lifting. FedEx guy hurts his low back, improper lifting. UPS guy, low back, improper. It's like low back, low back, low back, low back, low back, right? Occasionally we had a wrist or something from, overuse for typing, but for the most part, it was low back. And I got good at low back, but it was boring as heck, so that clearly wasn't what I wanted to do forever, so I got out of that quick. Again, got back into sniff and home health. And I loved home health because it was pretty flexible, and I could weave my cash pay patients in amongst my home health patients. So that was pretty nice. It just, you just kind of learn to find your passion and your niche as you're going through it, I think, and again, being young, having time, I would recommend taste testing some things, maybe travel for a year or two. If anybody tells you can't do that right out of school, they're full of it. I did. You just got to be confident in your skills, realize you're going to be on an island a little bit of the time, and you just have to learn a new EMR every time you go somewhere. It is what it is, but they pay well. You'll make a lot of money, and you'll get to see what you like and what you don't like. I don't have any regrets. I don't think I did anything wrong or things worked out for me, but yeah, I'm a lifelong learner for sure. So if I had more time, I would definitely try some other stuff. In this book, I have a list of, not even a list, I wrote my name long ways with a bunch of letters after my name because I thought those were important. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's my name and a bunch of letters, PT, DPT, EDD, OCS, SCS, CKTP, CERT SMT, CERT DN, Diploma of Osteopractor, COMT, TPI Level 3, CIC, CCRT, CF Level 1, and CERT APHPT. Right? Some of these have come true, and I've highlighted them and checked them off. Right? These were all just things I was interested in and thought over my career I could do. A lot of these aren't going to happen. GCS I may have to add that one there. If I do the Titleist one, it would probably be just for personal. I enjoy golf, so I think it'd be cool to learn more about the golf swing and injuries and ways to rehab it. Diploma of Osteopractor, I've gotten 3 of the 7 or 8 courses you need for that. I may keep going and checking that off, but I don't see patients enough to make it worth it. Dry needling, I don't need anymore if I get the Diploma of Osteopractor, right? I mean, again, these were just pie in the sky ideas that I had that I thought like mattered, that I thought I wanted, that I thought I needed. And you just find out along the way what you really love and what matters. And then you just kind of build on that, but at the end of the day, I'll tell you this, letters do not matter. They just don't, unless you're trying to teach, then yeah, I would say you need at least a board cert to get your foot in the door, or then a terminal degree to teach full time. But there's ways around it. If you don't want to get a terminal degree, the PTA programs always need help. And with a doctorate level, you can teach at a PTA program because they're associates right now. They may go to bachelor's, bad idea, but whatever. It's a different rabbit hole for a different time. What else can I answer?
I have one more question, and I'll make it a lightning round because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, man, I'm here all night.
Really quick though, before I ask that question, I know that you were mentioning about that unification of calendars. I would love for somebody to come up with another multi-million dollar idea, but if you have an iPhone, that's already kind of taken care of. You could kind of log into your emails, and then when it shows you up the settings, you could just put calendar, and in that calendar app, all of those different
Yeah.
platforms do it for you. So look
So
into that.
I've
You'll love it.
kind of got that going on my iPhone for sure. Like it kind of merges. I don't know if you guys can see that. Probably not. It's too bright. It kind of merges my Gmail and my Microsoft calendar. The problem becomes on my computer, my school computer.
Mhm.
When I'm using Microsoft Office, it won't go the other way. So like I have the Office calendar, and then I have to pull up my uh, business calendar, my Google calendar, and just have them side by side. The iPhone seems to do a decent job of merging it, but people from my Microsoft calendar can't see my unavailabilities because they're on Gmail. I can see them, but they can't. So they like schedule meetings. They're like, "Oh, you had an opening I saw," and I'm like, "Well, kind of, but not really."
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that is a limitation of Microsoft. Um, so my question is, given everything that you've experienced so far in the beginning of starting your business, or heck, even right out of school and then up to the point where you are now, if you could change one thing, if you could do one thing differently to kind of pave a stronger road and a quicker road for success for you, what do you think that'd be?
I would have started a business while I was in school, no doubt. I would have probably started, and again, this stuff didn't really exist when I was in school. So like I have a good friend of mine who is a dental hygienist turned DPT turned digital marketer. And he started with a lead generation business while he was in school and graduated debt free because of his lead generation business. I don't even think he went on to become a PT. I think he bailed after he graduated. But it's just not important because he's making multiple six figures on his digital marketing business, his agency. So he has the DPT credentials. He can leverage that, and it gets him in pretty good with PT clinics that need leads. But yeah, lead generation was one of the most lucrative businesses that I've done to date. You could pull in a $3,000 to $5,000 contract a month, getting 30 to 50 leads for businesses, right? Because leads are businesses' lifeblood, and it's month to month, So let's say you had 3 PT clinics across the nation. This is exactly how I started. Once I got my Facebook ads honed in for my mobile business, 2 buddies of mine from PT school had their own practices, each of which one had 2 practices and one had 3. Now the one's up to 3 and the other guy out in Utah is up to 5 or 6. And they asked me, "Hey, could you run our Facebook ads for us?" And I was like, "I can try." I was like, "It's going to cost you, but I'll try." And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely, we'll pay you." So those are my first 2 customers, and you guarantee 30 leads a month for $100 a lead. There's a $3,000 contract. You have 3 clinics across the nation doing that, and you're making $9,000 a month on three contracts. Now you got to be proficient and decent at Facebook ads, right? But 30 leads is not that hard to do on Facebook ads. The only thing you need to do is keep your finger on the pulse because they keep changing a lot. There's some rules and regulations that change, so you have to kind of be up on it. But other than that, it's pretty easy to get 30 leads. Now, the key becomes, and the reason I kind of got out of physical therapy leads is because they weren't great closers. Whether it was the physical therapist that was a solopreneur on the phone trying to close somebody and get them in, or a front desk person who had no clue what they were talking about or trying to get people in. They just weren't good closers. Whereas I did it for pool installation companies, and I did it for roofers. I did it for home renos. They're pretty decent closers. They're selling their services right out the gate. So they know business, they know how to close. And again, let's say I charge $3,000 for 30 leads for a pool place, and of those 30 leads, they close 2. That's 1 out of 15. That's not very good, but that's still, a pool can go for anywhere from 30 to 50 grand. So they're going to pay me $3,000 a month to get 2 $30,000 pools at $60,000 profit. That's a no brainer. They'll do that all day, every day. If I can keep getting them leads, they'll keep paying me. So,
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up. That before my DPT, I had my MBA in specializing in marketing, and I did that for 10 years. And my bread and butter for my businesses were lead generation. It was all Google Analytics, Google Ads, and Facebook ads. That's all I did.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had started a business, any business. Again, let's say lead generation didn't really exist when I went to school, right? So I would have started some sort of business, coaching or personal trainer or personal assistant or something while I was in school, so that I would have had the business acumen, but B, the LLC already set up for by the time I graduated. It was, even if it was just, let's just say I made like stationery or something, right? Logo stationery or something. And I was able to make an extra $500 a month, right? Well, that $500 could have helped a lot while I was in grad school, but also, again, it would have helped me learn what I could do and what I couldn't, how I could handle it, how I could ramp things up and maybe, scale a little bit. And I would have had a lot more reps underneath me. So yeah, I would have started a business while I was in school if I had to do it all over again. Also, probably would have tried to find a mentor. It wasn't quite the same. Like now there's a bunch of mentors all specializing in whatever you want to specialize in. So you can find somebody who's doing what you want to do and learn from them. There's a good chance they have a course or a book or something. That didn't really exist when I was around. So you can definitely speed up your timeline doing that. Anything else? Anything else you guys want to know about? Like I said, don't be afraid to juggle 8, 10 things at once. Just know you got to, set yourself up for success by doing the right things and putting the right systems in order to take those 8 different projects on, or figure out when to lean into one and when to back off, right? How to prioritize. And you guys should already be learning that skill set in grad school. You got a big, anatomy test on Friday, and you have like a intro to PT test the following Wednesday. You're probably going to study a lot harder this week for anatomy because that's coming up first, and that's a huge class. Whereas you can probably just schedule, Monday and Tuesday of next week to study for intro to PT. That should be enough, right? You're learning how to prioritize. You're learning how to put things, how much time you need personally to get it done. So you just take that and apply it to your real life and business and projects. And like I said, time blocking has saved my life. It's literally, it helped me focus before the meds, right? Before ADHD was diagnosed and I got on the meds. And now it's like, I feel super focused. I get like 8 hours of laser focus every day, which is crazy. Because I was already pretty high operator with ADHD. Now imagine it on meds. It's like, I feel like Superman, So all of you guys are in trouble now. Coming for you. No, it's been good. It's been a good journey.
Anything in specific that you think would be beneficial to know now, outside of starting your own business, now as a student, to kind of keep in mind as we're going through graduating and then starting our own business? I know from my side, I think about the marketing side a lot because that's what I'm exposed to, but I'd like to get a different perspective from somebody who's gone through that journey.
2 things. One, selling, right? You already kind of probably know that with your marketing background. Selling is the number one most important skill in our lives, hands down. You guys don't even realize it, but you're selling yourself to your next employer. You're selling yourself to a boyfriend or girlfriend. You're selling yourself to your patients and trying to get them to buy into your plan of care. Selling, selling, selling. There's a book by Daniel Pink, I believe it is, To Sell is Human. Read that book. It's a great book. And it just shows you that everything we do in life pretty much is selling. The other one I would kind of read that's sort of related is Predictably Irrational, which is the human mentality of things and how we purchase and make decisions irrationally. Even though the rational, opportunity is there, we dismiss that and make purchases and things based on a lot of irrational thought processes. And then the second thing is copywriting. 100%. I would learn copywriting. I've actually got a free resource I can send to you guys on the top 8 to 10 books that I've read to get better at copywriting. I thought I'd be good at it because I was an English major. Turns out it's a whole different language. And if you understand copywriting, again, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it, but copywriting is helping people make better, more well-informed decisions, not like used car salesman stuff. We're educating them as to what you have, whether it be physical therapy or some other product, right, service, and how they need it to get to their goal, and how if they don't have it, the pain process they'll go through because they don't have it. So copywriting is huge. If you know how to do copywriting, again, most of my side gig and side hustle as of late has been copywriting, writing for medical blogs, writing for a medical marijuana company, writing for fantasy football injuries, writing for side hustles and side gigs website, like all these things that I love and I'm interested in anyway. I just sit there and now I do copy for them. I do blogs, I do long form sales, I do email sequences, and that pays well. I mean, again, I can command, whereas like a lot of copywriters on Facebook pages and stuff like that, especially foreign trained ones from India and the Philippines and stuff like that, they'll charge 2 to 4 cents a word. I've got 2 doctoral degrees and a BA in English. I can charge 10 to 15 cents a word, right? And if I'm writing 1,000 words, that's $150 for like an hour worth of work. And I get to do it from the comfort of my own home while watching the Giants piss one away to the Cowboys, So, you just have to figure, and then again, if I can sneak a bonus one in there, it's that word we talked about earlier. It's leverage, right? I can see a patient one-on-one for $200 an hour, and that's great. Or I can do consulting for injury mitigation for a moving company and educate 30 of their employees how not to get hurt and charge $1,500 an hour for 2 hours worth of work. Right. So does it make sense now to see those 2 patients in 2 hours for $400? Or does it make sense to divert my time to go over there and consult at a much higher rate? Right. So now my time becomes way more valuable. And it makes more sense to do that. So if I'm leveraging my degree, my knowledge, my background, you guys all take an ergonomics course, proper body mechanics, how to properly lift, right? General nutrition, hydration is important, sleep's important. You educate a workforce that's never been past high school on all these things, that's working at a manual labor job like a moving company, and all of a sudden their workman's comp numbers go down, right? They get less injuries, so you're saving them $3 to $5 grand per injury. And again, you're only asking for, $1,500 an hour, 2 hours worth of work, $3 grand, boom. You save them one injury and they've more than paid for it. So it's leveraging your knowledge, your background, your passion, your zone of genius, what you're good at, and leaning in on it heavy, betting on yourself, right? Dying on your own sword kind of thing.
If you don't mind, would you repeat the second name of that book that you mentioned? I know the first one is To Sell as Human. What's the second one?
Predictably Irrational. Can't remember who wrote that one.
Dr. Dan Ariely.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, those two are good because To Sell as Human, again, kind of shows you that a lot of the things we do are selling, whether we like to think of it as selling or not. And then Predictably Irrational kind of shows the thought process that goes into purchasing and how ridiculously irrational we are as humans. So what you think makes sense, and what you think like, oh, I'm the best PT in the world and I have all these letters after my name and I've been trained by this and that. Nobody cares. They're gonna, hey man, my back really hurts. Are you the solution? Can you help me? Yeah, I can help you. Oh, by the way, I'm a physical therapist, right? It's secondary almost. So yeah, those are 2 good ones to kind of get your mindset shifting. And again, to come all the way back around full circle, a lot of this is just mindset. It's getting out of your own way. It's realizing that, hey, I've got quite the knowledge base. I've got quite the skill sets. I learned a lot. I can apply that to a bunch of different things. Like that's the cool thing about physical therapy. So many avenues, so many things we can do. Right. The first course I ever created was a fantasy football injury review course, right? Showing all the injuries that happen and the approximate return to play, right? Timelines. That's it. Second course was an esports injury prevention book, right? It was an ebook that had kind of an upsell to a 6-week training course for better hand-eye coordination, posture, better hydration, better nutrition. And then the third step up was if that still didn't work and you wanted to work one-on-one with me, we could do a wellness consult for $100 via telehealth, right? So now you've got a value ladder built in, right? Esports, video gamers as athletes. That's ridiculous, but physical therapists have the right to step in that ring and say, yeah, we know how to help these people get better. Because we do. Most of the esports stuff I got was from the workman's comp company, right? It was wrist, hand, finger injuries, right? Elbow, shoulder, overuse, posture, it's all the same stuff. And I just relayed it over to esports, which was perfect timing because I lived in Waco at the time, and Dallas just opened the biggest esports arena in the nation. Right place, right time. Put that stuff out there and let the public do with it what they will. But are they going to rather learn from a doctor of physical therapy or Ninja 5689, the video gamer? It's like, I'd rather learn from a doctorate in physical therapy if I had to choose, not some guy that's popping Mountain Dews and cheese balls, But again, you think you know what's right, and then we make predictably irrational decisions, and they buy from the wrong guy because he got a bigger following and a sponsor, and it is what it is, But I digress. Anything else you guys want to hear about tonight? This has been fun, man. I'd be glad to do it for you guys down there in Miami anytime you want to talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. It'd be an honor. We're still trying to get everything situated. We actually had our first speaker already lined up, and then we had to figure out some internal paperwork thing. But the biggest thing was that this hurricane decided to greet us with full force. So, yeah,
man. Well, like I said, we like to keep our doors open to everybody all the time. So, feel free to hop in on our we'll put our links out there for all of our guest speakers, and we will probably try to have one business meeting per quarter for all the campuses. We've got a pretty cool fundraiser set up for next year. We're going to try to work with Chris Gronkowski's company, Ice Shaker. Shameless plug. You can actually see his logo in the back there. He's a sponsor for my podcast. But he's been generous enough to let us use Ice Shaker as kind of a business incubator. So each campus will work on selling those as a fundraiser. Whoever sells the most, half of the money goes to that chapter and the other half goes to the charity they're choosing. So that'll be pretty fun, I think, for 2023. Looking forward to that. But yeah, man, it's just, it's about not being afraid, just going for it. You got to just implement, like Nike says, right? Just do it. Just get out there and do, create, make stuff, go fast and break stuff, right? Zuckerberg. You'll be a lot better off for it. You'll learn more too.
Yeah. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, you guys. And we will post this as soon as we get it up on the YouTube channel. We'll get you guys the link.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.